We shouted out to the heavens, and the demons of Earth heard us HFY. At the base of the mountains, a small research outpost hummed with life. The building was simple, metal walls, a few windows, and a set of antennas stretching up into the night sky. But inside, it was full of ideas, plans, and dreams. Ethan Brooks walked slowly down the narrow hallway of the outpost, hands in the pockets of his jacket. His boots made soft thuds against the metal floor. He had always liked walking at night when others were asleep. The silence helped him think. Tonight, though, the silence felt different. There was a strange tension in the air, like the Earth itself was waiting for something. He entered the main lab, where computers blinked with data streams and screens showed maps of seismic activity from across the region. Leela Morgan, the engineer of the team, was sitting at a console, her fingers moving quickly over the keyboard. Her dark hair fell into her eyes, but she didn't seem to notice. "Another spike," Ethan said softly, pointing to one of the monitors. "Right here, just now." Leela looked up, her eyes sharp. "It's small, nothing we can't handle," she said. Her voice was calm, but there was a hint of worry. She had been working on these anomalies for months and knew that small signs could grow into big problems fast. Ethan frowned. "Small. It's almost exactly where the last big tremor was last month. You don't think?" "I don't know," Leela admitted. "That's why we're here, to find out." The lab was full of quiet humming, clicking, and the occasional beep from a machine. There was Owen Clark, a former military strategist turned research assistant, leaning against a wall with his arms crossed. He was tall, with a serious face and a voice that carried authority even when he didn't speak. "You two worry too much," he said. "We've studied this area for years. The Earth is unpredictable, yes, but it doesn't do anything it doesn't want to." Ethan shook his head. "That's the problem, Owen. We're not sure what it wants right now." Outside, the wind picked up. The antennas on the roof shook slightly. The earth beneath them rumbled just a little, a quiet warning almost no one could feel. But Ethan felt it. He always did. The team had been working on a new experiment for weeks. They called it the Resonance Project. Its goal was simple: send a signal deep into the Earth to study its reaction, then listen for anything unusual. They used vibrations, sound waves, and low-frequency pulses. They had not expected the signal to go beyond the planet, but the equipment was powerful and mistakes were possible. Leela turned toward Ethan, her face serious. "I think tonight is the night. We test the full signal. If it works, we'll get more data than ever before. If it doesn't, well, we'll know it's not ready." Ethan nodded slowly. Something in her voice made him uneasy. There was excitement, yes, but also a tension that felt almost alive. The lab grew quiet as the team prepared the machines. Wires were checked, dials were adjusted, and the large metal device at the center of the lab began to hum softly. It was an unusual machine, part transmitter and part receiver, and it looked like nothing anyone outside their research had ever seen. Owen stepped closer to the console. "You know the risks," he said. "We're poking the Earth in ways no one has before. If something responds, we might not like what we get." Ethan nodded. "I know." Leela glanced around at everyone. "We need to try. Humanity needs to know more about this world we live on. The Earth is alive in ways we can't imagine, and we can't hide from it forever." She pressed a button, and the machine roared to life. The hum grew louder, vibrating through the floor, into the walls, and deep into the hearts of everyone in the lab. A low-frequency pulse began to send vibrations deep into the Earth's crust, reaching into places no human had ever touched. For a moment, nothing happened. The team held their breath, watching the monitors. The lines of data flowed steadily, showing the movement of the Earth's layers. Then a small anomaly appeared, tiny at first, like a ripple in a pond. "That's it," Ethan whispered. "Do you see it?" Leela leaned closer. "It's moving faster than it should." The anomaly grew, pulsing in time with the signal they were sending. Then the hum from the machine began to shift. It was no longer a steady vibration. It was something different, almost like a voice trying to form. None of them spoke. The room was filled with a strange tension, a feeling that something unseen was listening. Owen's hand went to his chin. "It's responding." Suddenly, the earth beneath them rumbled more strongly. Dust fell from the ceiling. The lights flickered. Outside, the wind screamed louder than before. Ethan felt his stomach tighten. The earth was answering, not in words, but in a force that no human could fully control. Then something even stranger happened. The hum of the machine blended with another sound, low and deep, almost like a growl. Leela's eyes widened. "That's not from the machine," she said. The team froze. The sound came from beneath them, deep in the earth. It was rhythmic, intelligent, and powerful. The pulse they had sent out had awakened something, something huge, ancient, and aware. Ethan swallowed hard. "What is that?" Owen didn't answer. He was staring at the monitors, at the tiny movements that now looked like living forms beneath the earth. Shadows twisted and turned, moving in ways that no rocks or minerals could. Leela's hands shook slightly as she typed commands into the console. I think it heard us, all of us, not just the earth, something inside it, something alive." The sound grew louder, vibrating the floor beneath their feet. The walls of the lab seemed to hum in response. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. This was no ordinary discovery. The Earth had something in it that had been sleeping for millions of years, and their signal had woken it. Outside, the night sky seemed darker than usual. The stars shimmered faintly, almost as if they were hiding. The wind carried whispers that no one could understand, like the Earth itself was speaking in a language older than humans. Ethan's mind raced. "We need to stop the signal," he said. "We don't know what we've done." Leela shook her head. "We can't, not yet. We need to understand it. This is history in the making." The anomaly beneath them pulsed faster, responding to every movement of the machine. Shadows twisted, shapes formed, and for a brief moment, Ethan thought he saw something that looked almost human. But it wasn't human. Its eyes, if it had eyes, glowed faintly red, and it moved with a grace that was terrifying and beautiful at the same time. Owen stepped back, voice tense. "This is bad. This is very bad. Whatever is down there, it knows we exist." Ethan's heart pounded. He felt a strange mix of fear and awe. The Earth had always been alive, but he had never imagined it could be like this. Something deep inside was awake now, something that had waited for humans to make noise, to reach out, to shout at the heavens. The team continued to watch, unable to look away. The shadows formed shapes, then dissolved, moving like smoke through the rocks. The sound beneath them grew louder, filling the room with a vibration that seemed to enter their bones. Suddenly, the machine flickered and shut down. The hum stopped, the shadows disappeared, the lab was silent, but the feeling remained. Something had awakened beneath the earth, something had heard them. Ethan breathed heavily. We did it, but I don't know if we should be proud or terrified." Leela nodded, eyes wide. "It's awake, and it knows we exist. We have changed everything tonight." Owen didn't speak. He just stared at the floor, thinking about the implications. Humanity had shouted to the heavens, and something had answered, not from space, but from deep within their own planet. The wind outside finally calmed. The night grew quiet again, but the tension in the air remained. The Earth had been silent for millions of years, and now it was listening. Ethan looked around at his team. They were all exhausted, shaken, but alive. For a moment he felt a strange hope. Maybe humanity could face this. Maybe they could understand it, but deep down he knew that things would never be the same. Something powerful, something ancient was awake, and they had called it. The first step into a new world had been taken. They had shouted into the earth, and the earth had answered. The question was no longer whether humans could survive. The question was whether they were ready for what had been awakened. The night dragged on, long and quiet, but none of them slept. Outside, the mountains stood tall and silent, hiding the secrets beneath them. Shadows moved under the earth, watching, waiting, and learning. Humanity had made contact with something old, something alive, and it had begun its slow, careful response. Ethan Brooks sat by the console, staring at the screens, thinking about what they had done. Leela Morgan adjusted the antennas, making sure everything was intact. Owen Clark watched the walls as if expecting them to move. They were alive with fear, yes, but also with wonder. No one spoke for a long time. The earth was listening, and so was humanity. And somewhere beneath their feet, the ancient beings stirred, aware that the humans had shouted and that they had been heard. The morning light came slowly over the mountains, painting the snowy peaks with pale gold. Inside the outpost, Ethan Brooks and Leela Morgan were already awake. Sleep had been impossible after the events of the night before. Every sound, every vibration in the walls made them jump. Outside, the wind was calm, but the memory of the deep, low growl from beneath the earth still echoed in their minds. Ethan paced the lab, looking at the monitors. The data from the previous night was still fresh, but it didn't explain what they had seen. Something alive had moved beneath them, something intelligent. "I don't understand it," Ethan said, his voice low. "It shouldn't exist. Nothing in our history books or geology texts talks about creatures like that. How could something this big and aware hide for millions of years? Leela rubbed her eyes and shook her head. Maybe it wasn't hiding, maybe it was sleeping, waiting for us to make a noise, waiting for humans to wake it up. Ethan stopped pacing. Wake it up, that's terrifying. We could have just invited danger into the world. Outside, the forest was quiet. Birds chirped faintly, but there was a sense of stillness that felt unusual. It was as if the earth itself was holding its breath. Ethan stepped toward a window and looked down at the forest floor. Something moved in the shadows between the trees. He blinked. Nothing was there. Did you see that? He asked, turning to Leela. Leela looked up. See what? There was a shape, something large moving in the shadows. Owen Clark stepped up behind them, arms crossed, eyes serious. You're imagining things. The earth shakes sometimes. Shadows move with the wind, that's all. Ethan shook his head. No, that was too fast, too deliberate. The day went on slowly. The team gathered to review the data from the signal they had sent. The anomalies in the Earth's crust were growing stronger, deeper, and more organized. Every pulse they had sent had caused a reaction, and the reactions were no longer random. The Earth was moving with purpose. Leela typed quickly on her console, pulling up graphs and maps. Look at this, she said. The vibrations are spreading outward deeper into the planet, and there's something responding to them, something alive. It's learning. Ethan leaned over her shoulder. The monitor showed faint shapes moving slowly under the crust. They were enormous, some hundreds of feet long, twisting and turning like living shadows. Owen frowned. Learning? Are you saying it's intelligent? Leela nodded. Yes. Something we woke up last night is not just alive. It's aware and it's adapting to our signals. Whatever it is, it knows we're here. The team sat in silence, the weight of the discovery pressing down on them. Humanity had done something no one had done before. They had woken something ancient, something powerful from deep inside the earth. By late afternoon, the ground near the outpost began to shake. It started slowly, just small vibrations, but soon the tremors grew stronger. Equipment rattled, papers fell from desks, and the lights flickered. Outside, trees swayed unnaturally. The team ran to the windows, staring at the ground. A deep fissure opened in the earth just beyond the outpost. Smoke and dust rose from it, and a shape emerged. It was enormous, at least 3 times the height of a tree. Its body was dark like stone mixed with shadows, but it moved with purpose as if it had a mind of its own. Its eyes glowed faintly red, and it scanned the area slow and deliberate. Ethan felt his heart race. It's huge. Leela held onto the window frame. It's beautiful and terrifying. The creature moved toward the outpost, but it didn't attack. Its gaze was not filled with anger, at least not in a way humans could understand. It was curious. It studied the building, the team, the equipment. Every step it took made the ground tremble. Owen stepped back, voice low. We need to leave, now. This is bigger than anything we can handle. Ethan shook his head. No, we need to understand it. We need to know what it wants. The creature stopped a short distance from the building. It tilted its head, observing. Then it let out a low, rumbling sound. It was not a roar. It was communication. It was slow, deep, and resonant, vibrating through the air and the walls of the lab. Leela listened carefully. It's trying to talk. I think it is. The team realized that everything they had feared about the Earth's demons was true, but also more complicated. These creatures were not simple monsters. They were intelligent. They were guardians of the Earth, moving beneath the surface for millions of years. And now, humans had called them out. Ethan stepped outside cautiously, keeping his hands visible. The ground shook with every step, but he kept moving forward. The creature lowered its massive head, and Ethan could feel the vibration of its thoughts, or whatever humans might call them, pulsing through his chest. Easy, he whispered. We're not here to hurt you. The creature paused. Its glowing eyes studied him. Slowly, it extended a limb, not aggressively, but as if testing Ethan's courage. Ethan held his ground, feeling the pulse of the earth beneath him, the life of the creature connecting with him in a strange, terrifying way. Inside the lab, Leela monitored the creature's movement with the sensors. It's responding to Ethan's presence. It's curious about him, about us. Owen muttered, Curiosity can be dangerous. Don't let it get too close. But Ethan felt something else. He felt a strange connection. Something deep inside the creature recognized the humans as thinking, intelligent beings, not just threats or food. And for the first time, the team realized that their fears might not be completely justified. Over the next hours, more shapes began to appear from the fissures. Smaller than the first, but still enormous, they moved through the forest with grace. Their bodies shimmered slightly, blending with shadows, almost invisible unless you looked carefully. Birds scattered, animals ran, and the team watched, holding their breath. The creatures did not attack. They circled, studied, and listened. They seemed to understand the signals humans had sent, reacting to vibrations and pulses. Leela typed quickly, trying to record every movement. "They're learning from us," she said. "They are observing how we move, how we react. They are studying us like we studied the Earth." Ethan nodded slowly. "Then we need to show them we're intelligent, that we can think, not just react, that we can be trusted." Owen frowned. "And what if they decide we can't be trusted? Then what?" Ethan swallowed. "Then we hope we survive." Night fell again, but the creatures did not disappear. They moved like shadows beneath the trees, their glowing eyes watching the outpost. Ethan, Leela, and Owen sat together, planning their next move. The humans had made contact, but they didn't know what kind of response would come. The creatures began to make patterns in the forest, lines of disturbed earth, rocks arranged strangely, vibrations that could be felt through the ground. Ethan realized they were communicating with each other, sharing information about the humans. They were intelligent enough to work together, coordinating their movements. Leela looked at Ethan. "We need to respond, not with machines or weapons, with something they can understand, something intelligent." Ethan nodded. "Maybe we can show them our thoughts, our ideas. That we mean no harm." The team stayed awake all night, observing, recording, and thinking. Every movement of the creatures was carefully noted. Every vibration was measured. They realized that survival depended not on hiding, not on running, but on proving humanity's intelligence and creativity. By morning, the earth around the outpost had changed. Trees were bent, the ground scarred, and the fissures remained open. But the creatures had not attacked. They were watching, waiting, learning, and deciding what humans were capable of. Ethan looked at Leela and Owen. "We woke them up. They heard us, and now it's up to us to show them we deserve to live." Owen nodded slowly. "This is bigger than any war, any natural disaster. This is about proving we are worthy of this planet and maybe of the universe." The day was quiet, but tension remained. Every sound, every movement of the earth could signal the creature's decision. Ethan knew that humanity had made a choice for itself. To confront the unknown, to show intelligence and courage, and to face the consequences of awakening the hidden life beneath the earth. As the team prepared to send new, controlled signals, the largest creature appeared again, closer this time. Its glowing eyes fixed on Ethan, and for a moment, time seemed to stop. The connection between human and ancient life was real, fragile, and full of possibility. The Earth had responded. Humanity had made contact with its guardians, and the real challenge was only beginning. Ethan, Leela, and Owen stood together, ready to face whatever came next. The creatures of the deep earth were awake. They had heard the humans shout, and now it was time to prove that humans were worth listening to. The night fell again, and the outpost glowed faintly in the shadow of the mountains. The creatures moved in the darkness, watching, learning, waiting for the humans' next move. The earth was alive in ways no one had imagined, and the humans had finally noticed. The morning sun rose slowly, lighting up the peaks of the Rocky Mountains. The outpost was quiet, but the tension in the air was heavy. Ethan Brooks, Leela Morgan, and Owen Clark had stayed up all night, watching the creatures move, recording their patterns, and studying the vibrations that pulsed through the earth. Each new movement of the creatures was strange and deliberate. They were learning, observing, and judging the humans. Ethan rubbed his eyes. "We need to do something," he said. "We can't just wait for them to decide if we're safe or not. We need to communicate." Leela nodded, her fingers already moving over the console. "I've been thinking about it. The vibrations we sent last night, they responded, but it wasn't a message we could understand. We need a way to send something intelligent, something they can recognize as thought, not just noise." Owen frowned. "You mean we're going to try to talk to them with vibrations? That sounds risky. What if they don't like what we're saying?" "We don't have a choice," Ethan said. "We have to try. They are watching, and they are deciding what to do with us. If we show them intelligence, maybe they will see we belong on this planet." For the next few hours, Leela worked on the console, adjusting the machines and designing patterns that could send clear, deliberate signals. Ethan studied the movements of the creatures, noticing how they responded to vibrations and subtle changes in sound. Owen stayed near the door, keeping watch and preparing for any sudden danger. Finally, they were ready. Leela pressed a button, and the machine hummed to life. The vibrations started slow, simple patterns that represented basic human thought, shapes, rhythms, and pulses designed to show intelligence. The ground beneath the outpost trembled slightly as the signal traveled deep into the earth. The creatures responded immediately. Shadows moved in the forest, and the large one that had approached the outpost the day before emerged again. It tilted its massive head, glowing eyes fixed on the outpost. Smaller creatures followed, emerging from fissures and shadows. Ethan stepped outside slowly, hands raised. "We mean no harm," he called. "We want to show you that we are intelligent, that we can think, learn, and live in peace with the earth." The creatures did not attack. They moved closer, circling the outpost, studying Ethan and the vibrations. Their movements were careful, calculated. It was clear they understood something was happening. They were trying to read the humans' intentions. Inside the lab, Leela monitored the signals. "They are responding to the patterns," she said. "They seem interested. They are matching the pulses, almost like they are communicating back." Ethan nodded. "Good, keep sending. We have to show them we are worth watching, worth listening to." Hours passed. The creatures continued to respond to the vibrations. Sometimes they moved closer, sometimes they paused. Ethan noticed that the largest creature began to imitate some of the patterns. Its movements through the forest created vibrations similar to the signals being sent from the machine. It was learning quickly, faster than they had expected. Owen was tense. "This is amazing, yes, but also dangerous. We don't know what they are thinking. We don't know if they will trust us or see us as prey." Ethan looked at him. "We can't think like that. We have to assume they are intelligent. They are judging us, yes, but they are also curious. That's our chance." By evening, the largest creature approached the outpost again. This time it was closer than ever before. Ethan and Leela stepped outside together, standing side by side. The creature stopped a few meters away, glowing eyes fixed on them. Its body moved slowly, almost cautiously. Ethan spoke softly. "We are humans. We think, we create, we learn. We are not your enemies. We want to live in peace with you and the earth." The creature tilted its head and emitted a low, resonant sound. The vibrations shook the ground, but they were not violent. Leela listened carefully, typing notes into the console. "It's responding to your voice and the vibrations together. It's recognizing intention, not just sound." Over the next few days, the team continued this cautious exchange. They sent vibrations, spoke softly, and observed the creatures. They began to notice patterns in the responses. When the humans moved slowly and deliberately, the creatures did the same. When the vibrations were clear and thoughtful, the creatures imitated them. Ethan realized that the creatures were testing humanity. They were judging whether humans were intelligent enough to be allowed to live without destroying the earth. Every step, every pulse, every word mattered. One morning, a smaller creature appeared closer to the outpost than ever before. It was almost like a child compared to the largest one. Ethan stepped forward slowly, holding out his hand in a gesture of trust. The creature paused, then extended a limb as if testing him. Ethan kept his hand steady. The creature touched it gently and then retreated, moving back into the shadows. Leela whispered, "It understands trust. It knows we are trying and it is responding. This is incredible." Owen frowned. "Incredible, yes, but still dangerous. We are dealing with something beyond anything we have ever known. One mistake, one wrong move, and it could be over for us." Ethan nodded. "I know, but we have to try. If we don't, we may never get another chance to communicate with them." The team worked tirelessly day and night, refining the signals and learning from the creatures' responses. Slowly, a connection began to form. It was not perfect, but it was real. The creatures were learning from the humans, and the humans were learning from the creatures. One afternoon, the largest creature approached the outpost and stood still, watching Ethan and Leela. It made a series of low vibrations, more complex than any they had heard before. Leela adjusted the machine to respond with a pattern of vibrations that represented human thought, curiosity, creativity, and intelligence. The creature paused, then repeated the vibrations in its own way. Ethan's heart raced. They were having a conversation, not with words but with vibrations. A new form of communication was forming, one that crossed species, one that bridged the gap between humans and the ancient life beneath the earth. Over the next few days, more creatures emerged, smaller and larger, all observing, all learning. The outpost became a place of cautious interaction. Humans and creatures were testing each other, learning who could be trusted, who could think, and who could survive. Ethan, Leela, and Owen realized that this was only the beginning. The Earth had been silent for millions of years, but now it was awake, and it was judging humanity. Ethan stood at the edge of the outpost one evening, watching the shadows move through the forest. "We are part of this planet now," he said quietly. "The creatures are teaching us, but they are also testing us. We have to prove we can live with them, not against them." Leela nodded. "And if we succeed, maybe we can learn more than we ever imagined. About the Earth, about life, about ourselves." Owen looked uneasy, but he didn't argue. "I hope we are ready. This is bigger than anything we've ever faced. We are not just exploring the Earth. We are proving ourselves to it." The night fell again, and the creatures moved silently through the shadows, watching, learning, and communicating in their own way. The humans had made the first steps in understanding them, but the true test was still ahead. As the stars shone above, Ethan, Leela, and Owen realized that they were not just observing history, they were making it. Humanity had reached out to the ancient life beneath the Earth, and it had been heard. The connection had begun, fragile and uncertain, but real. And the Earth was listening. The next morning, the mountains were quiet, but the team at the outpost felt the weight of what had happened. Ethan Brooks, Leela Morgan, and Owen Clark had spent the previous days sending vibrations, observing the creatures, and trying to understand their behavior. They had learned that the beings beneath the Earth were intelligent, patient, and curious. But they also knew that intelligence could be dangerous. One wrong signal, one wrong move, and the creatures could turn on them. Ethan stood outside, looking at the forest. Shadows moved slowly among the trees, and every so often he could see the faint red glow of the creatures' eyes. They were closer than before, testing the boundaries. "We need to be careful today," he said. "They are watching. Every step, every sound, every vibration matters." Leela adjusted the console inside the lab. "I've prepared a new signal. It's more complex than before. It's not just patterns or rhythms. It's a sequence that represents human thought, logic, and problem-solving. If they understand it, we might be able to communicate more clearly." Owen frowned. "And if they don't understand it, if they see it as a threat?" Ethan shook his head. "Then we hope we can read their response quickly. We have to take the risk. This is the only way to show them that we are intelligent, not just noise makers." Leela activated the machine. The hum filled the lab, low at first, then stronger as vibrations spread through the Earth. The ground trembled slightly, a warning and a signal at the same time. Outside, the creatures responded almost immediately. Shadows moved among the trees, and the largest creature stepped closer to the outpost, tilting its massive head as if trying to understand. Ethan stepped outside slowly, arms raised in a gesture of peace. The creature paused, glowing eyes fixed on him. It made a low, rumbling sound, vibrations rolling through the ground. Ethan could feel them in his chest. He stayed calm, repeating the patterns of thought they had prepared, slow, deliberate, and clear. The creature emitted a response. The vibrations were different this time, more complex. Leela watched the readings on the console, her eyes wide. "It's responding in a way that makes sense. It's trying to communicate." Ethan nodded slowly. "Then we need to keep going. Show them that we can understand and that we are thinking, not just reacting." Over the next few hours, the exchange continued. The humans sent sequences of vibrations representing questions, ideas, and simple patterns of logic. The creatures responded with their own movements, pulses, and vibrations. They moved closer to the outpost, circling, observing, and mimicking the signals. It was a careful, cautious conversation. Ethan realized something important. The creatures were not just testing them, they were teaching them. Every response contained information. Patterns that repeated, changes in rhythm, movements in the forest, all of it had meaning. Humanity had thought it was teaching the Earth, but the Earth was teaching humanity in return. By evening, the creatures were closer than ever before. The largest one stood just beyond the outpost, glowing eyes fixed on Ethan and Leela. Smaller ones moved among the trees, forming a circle around the humans. The team felt the tension, but also a strange calm. The creatures were intelligent, yes, but they were patient. They were not rushing, not attacking. They were watching, learning, and judging. Leela turned to Ethan. "We need to try something new. We've been sending patterns and vibrations, but they respond with movement. Maybe we can create a signal that combines both sound and vibration, something that they can feel and interpret as intelligence at once." Ethan nodded. Do it, this could be the breakthrough we need. Leela worked quickly, adjusting the machine to send pulses that combined vibrations with low-frequency sounds. She created sequences that represented human logic, thought, and emotion, curiosity, caution, and cooperation. When she activated the system, the hum filled the lab, then the forest outside. The creatures responded immediately. The largest one tilted its head, glowing eyes focused on the outpost. Smaller creatures moved in patterns around it, circling and pausing as if studying the vibrations and sounds. Ethan stepped forward, arms open. "We are humans," he called. "We think, we learn, and we wish to live in peace with you and the Earth." The creatures emitted a new sequence of vibrations. Leela's console translated the pulses into a pattern that seemed deliberate, structured, and intelligent. Ethan studied it carefully. "It's answering our question," he whispered. "It's showing us that it understands, that it can reason." Owen stepped forward cautiously. "This is amazing, but also dangerous. We are testing boundaries and they could still see us as a threat." Ethan nodded. "I know, but this is how we survive. We have to show them we are worth watching, worth learning from." Over the next day, the team continued the cautious exchange. The creatures moved closer to the outpost, and some began to explore the area, touching rocks, trees, and soil. Ethan realized that they were curious about humans, but they were also learning from the environment. They understood that humans could think, adapt, and survive. Leela adjusted the signals to include simple problem-solving sequences. They sent patterns that represented puzzles, and the creatures responded with movements that solved the puzzles in their own way. The team watched in awe. The creatures were not just alive, they were thinking, reasoning, and understanding. Ethan realized that humanity had underestimated the Earth. For millions of years, life had existed beneath the surface, intelligent and patient, and now humans had awakened it. But the Earth was not just dangerous. It was capable of teaching, guiding, and testing humanity in ways they had never imagined. By evening, the largest creature approached the outpost again. This time, it made a new sequence of vibrations, slower and more deliberate. Leela translated the pattern on the console. "It's inviting us. It wants us to come closer, to engage directly." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. "We have to be careful. This is the moment of truth. If we show respect and intelligence, maybe they will trust us. But if we make a mistake," Owen nodded, "then we have to hope our intelligence is enough to survive." The team prepared carefully. Ethan stepped forward slowly, Leela at his side, Owen watching from the back. The ground trembled slightly with every step, but the team moved deliberately. The creature paused, glowing eyes fixed on them. The smaller creatures moved aside, forming a path. Ethan spoke softly. "We are here to understand, not to harm. We wish to communicate, to learn, and to live in peace." The creature emitted a series of vibrations, almost like a response to his words. Ethan felt the pulses through his body. It was not violent. It was deliberate, intelligent, and patient. He realized that the creature was teaching them how to communicate, showing them the structure of thought, logic, and intention. Leela adjusted the machine to match the pattern, sending vibrations back in a careful, deliberate sequence. The forest seemed to hold its breath. The creatures moved slowly, testing, observing, and responding. It was a conversation unlike anything humans had ever had, a meeting of minds across species and time. Hours passed. The team and the creatures continued their cautious exchange. They solved problems together, explored simple patterns of logic, and built a basic understanding. For the first time, Ethan realized that they were not just observing the Earth. They were interacting with it, learning from it, and being judged by it. By nightfall, the largest creature retreated slightly, and the smaller ones moved back into the shadows. The team felt a sense of achievement, but also a heavy responsibility. They had made contact, begun to communicate, and earned a small measure of trust. But the creatures were still watching, still learning, still deciding what humans were capable of. Ethan looked at Leela and Owen. "We have done more than we imagined. We have shown intelligence, patience, and respect. They are beginning to understand us. But we have to keep going. We have to prove that humanity is capable of thinking, learning, and surviving alongside them." Leela nodded. "We can do it, but we have to be careful. Every action matters now." Owen sighed. "I never thought I would say this, but I trust them more than I trust ourselves sometimes. We are fragile, they are ancient, and yet they are teaching us. This is incredible." The night was quiet, but the Earth was alive. The creatures moved in the shadows, observing, learning, and communicating. Humanity had taken the first steps in a new relationship with the ancient life beneath the earth. It was fragile, uncertain, and full of possibility. Ethan, Leela, and Owen knew that the real challenge was only beginning. They had earned a chance to communicate, to learn, and to survive. But they also knew that one mistake, one misunderstanding, could change everything. The Earth had awakened, and humanity had to prove it was worthy. The team returned to the lab, exhausted but focused. The creatures had retreated slightly, but their presence was still strong. The vibrations from the Earth pulsed faintly through the ground, a constant reminder that life beneath the surface was watching. Ethan sat at the console, thinking, "We are not just explorers anymore, we are ambassadors. Every signal we send, every action we take represents humanity. We have to show that we are worthy of this planet and that we can live in balance with it." Leela adjusted the machine for another sequence. "We can continue tomorrow, step by step, pattern by pattern. We can teach them and learn from them. This is how we survive and maybe even thrive." Owen nodded. "And we have to remember we are fragile, they are ancient, but if we keep our minds open and our hearts steady, we have a chance." Outside, the forest was dark. Shadows moved silently among the trees. The creatures were still there, still observing, still learning. Humanity had begun a conversation with the Earth, but the story was far from over. Ethan, Leela, and Owen prepared for the night. They had survived the first test. They had begun to communicate, and they had learned that intelligence, patience, and courage were the keys to surviving alongside the ancient life beneath the Earth. The night stretched on, long and quiet. The mountains stood tall and silent, hiding the mysteries beneath them. The Earth was awake and it was listening. Humanity had begun its test, and the next steps would decide the future. The sun rose slowly over the mountains, casting a golden glow across the outpost. Ethan Brooks, Leela Morgan, and Owen Clark were awake before dawn, preparing for what they knew could be the most important day of their lives. The creatures beneath the Earth had been observing them for days, learning from their movements, their signals, and their patience. Now it felt like the time had come for a final step, a moment where humans would show the Earth that they were worthy of trust and survival. Ethan stepped outside, looking at the forest. Shadows moved in the trees, faint shapes of the creatures circling silently. The largest one stood at a distance, glowing eyes fixed on him. Smaller creatures moved among the trees, forming a wide perimeter. The ground beneath his feet vibrated faintly, as if the Earth itself was holding its breath. "We've come this far," Ethan said softly to Leela and Owen. "Now we have to show them everything we've learned, our patience, our intelligence, our respect for this planet. One mistake and it could all end." Leela nodded. "We can do this, we've practiced. They understand us better than anyone else on Earth could. Step by step, we'll show them we deserve to survive." Owen rubbed his hands together nervously. "I hope we're ready. I don't want to think about what happens if we fail." Ethan placed a hand on his shoulder. "We have to try. There's no other choice." The team gathered in front of the outpost, where the vibrations from the machines could reach the deepest parts of the Earth. Leela activated the device, and it began to hum, sending complex sequences of sound and vibration into the ground. These sequences were the most sophisticated patterns they had created yet, representing human reasoning, problem-solving, and emotion. The largest creature responded immediately. It moved closer, and the smaller creatures adjusted their positions, forming a wide circle around the humans. The ground trembled with every step, but none of the creatures showed aggression. Their glowing eyes studied the humans carefully. Ethan stepped forward slowly, speaking aloud. "We are humans. We think, we learn, and we create. We are capable of mistakes, but we are also capable of understanding and growth. We wish to live in balance with the Earth and with you." The vibrations from the largest creature responded to his words. They were slow and deliberate, measured, almost as if the creature was weighing each thought. Ethan felt the pulses through his chest and legs. The patterns were not random. They were logical, intelligent, and patient. The creature was testing them, judging their intentions. Leela adjusted the signals from the machine to match the creature's pulses, creating a dialogue of vibration and sound. Step by step, they exchanged sequences representing logic, curiosity, and empathy. The smaller creatures responded in kind, moving through the forest in careful patterns that seemed to mimic the human signals. Hours passed, the sun climbing higher, and still the communication continued. The creatures tested them with new sequences, more complex than anything before. Ethan and Leela matched the patterns carefully, showing understanding, adaptation, and respect. The team realized that they were not only proving intelligence, they were proving humility and patience, qualities the creatures clearly valued. By midday, the largest creature stepped even closer, standing just beyond the outpost. Its glowing eyes were fixed on Ethan, and its vibrations were steady and deliberate. Ethan felt a strange calm. It was not fear, it was understanding. For the first time, he felt that the creature recognized them as thinking beings, capable of reason and respect. Leela watched the monitors closely. They're signaling that they understand. They are not just responding, they are teaching us now. Look at the patterns. They are showing sequences we haven't created. They are guiding us, helping us communicate better. Ethan nodded slowly. Then we have succeeded in earning their attention. Now we have to show that we deserve their trust. The team spent the afternoon exchanging sequences with the creatures, moving carefully and deliberately. Every pulse of vibration, every sound, every movement had meaning. Slowly, a new understanding formed, a connection between humans and the ancient life beneath the earth. The sun began to set, painting the mountains in shades of orange and red. The creatures moved closer to the outpost, forming a protective circle around the team. The largest one emitted a new series of vibrations, long, steady, and deliberate. Leela translated the patterns on the console. It's an invitation. It wants us to follow it, into the forest closer to the fissures. Ethan swallowed, feeling a mix of fear and excitement. This is it, we have to go, step carefully, show them we are worthy. Owen frowned. Into the forest, are we sure this is safe? Ethan nodded. It's the only way, we have to show them that we can follow, understand, and respect their world. The team moved slowly, following the largest creature through the forest. Smaller creatures flanked them, moving in patterns that guided their steps. The ground trembled gently, but it was not threatening. The vibrations were like a rhythm, a heartbeat of the earth itself. As they approached the fissures, Ethan could see shapes moving beneath the surface, shadows of creatures twisting and turning, curious and watchful. The largest creature stopped at the edge of a wide fissure and emitted a low, resonant vibration. Ethan felt it through his chest. We have to respond carefully, he said. Show understanding, patience, and respect. Leela adjusted the machine to match the vibration sequence. They sent patterns representing trust, cooperation, and intelligence. The largest creature tilted its head, glowing eyes fixed on them, and the fissures shifted slightly, revealing more shapes beneath the surface. Ethan realized that these were the guardians of the earth, millions of years old, patient, intelligent, and powerful. They were not monsters. They were protectors, observers, and teachers, and humanity had been tested. Hours passed as the team continued to exchange sequences, carefully learning the creatures' language of vibrations. The creatures moved closer, circling the fissures, demonstrating patience and intelligence. Ethan felt a connection unlike anything he had ever known. It was as if the earth itself was teaching him, guiding him, showing him the path of respect and understanding. By nightfall, the largest creature emitted a new sequence. Leela translated it slowly on the console. It's a judgment. They have decided. They recognize our intelligence, our patience, and our respect. They are acknowledging that we can coexist with the earth, that we are worthy of survival. Ethan felt a surge of relief. We did it, he whispered. They trust us. They accept us. The smaller creatures moved closer, forming protective patterns around the team. The largest creature remained at the edge of the fissure, glowing eyes watching, but no longer with caution. There was calm, understanding, and a quiet approval in its presence. Owen let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. I can't believe it. We survived. We made contact, and they trust us. Leela smiled, exhausted but happy. Not just trust, they are teaching us. They are showing us how to communicate, how to respect the earth, and how to think in ways we never imagined. Ethan looked around the forest at the creatures and at the fissures. We have learned something important today. Humanity is capable of more than we thought. We can think, adapt, and survive. We can learn from the earth, not just use it, and we can prove ourselves worthy. The night was quiet but alive. Shadows moved through the forest, glowing eyes watching, but there was no threat. The earth had judged humanity, and humanity had passed. The creatures had shown patience, intelligence, and understanding. And humans had responded with curiosity, courage, and respect. Ethan, Leela, and Owen returned to the outpost, exhausted but filled with a sense of accomplishment. They had made contact with beings older than anything in human history. They had learned a new way to communicate, a new way to understand life itself, and they had proven that humans could coexist with the ancient life beneath the earth. Over the next few days, the creatures continued to observe, but now they were closer, more relaxed, and more willing to interact. The humans sent new sequences, and the creatures responded with their own. A new understanding had formed, a connection between species, between humans and the guardians of the earth. Ethan looked out at the forest, feeling a deep sense of awe. "We are not alone on this planet," he said. "We have been judged and we have survived. But more than that, we have been taught. We have learned that intelligence, patience, and respect matter more than strength or speed. We have earned a place here." Leela nodded. "And we have a responsibility to the earth, to the creatures, and to ourselves. We have to continue learning, respecting, and communicating. This is just the beginning." Owen smiled faintly. "I never thought I'd say this, but I'm proud of us. We faced the unknown and we succeeded. We've made history." The night stretched on, quiet and full of life. Shadows moved among the trees, glowing eyes watching, but there was a sense of peace. The earth had judged humanity, and humanity had risen to the challenge. A new bond had formed, fragile and precious, but real. Ethan, Leela, and Owen sat together at the edge of the outpost, watching the creatures move in the forest. They knew the future would be full of challenges, but for the first time they felt hope. Humanity had shouted to the earth, and the earth had listened. They had awakened something ancient, and in return they had learned patience, intelligence, and respect. The mountains stood tall and silent, hiding the mysteries beneath them. The earth was alive, aware, and patient, and humanity had finally begun to understand it. The creatures of the deep earth had heard them, and humanity had proved that it could think, learn, and survive. The world would never be the same again.